Extra Mile. A fun and informative companion piece to go with this week's episode, which it may be best to listen to first. Oh, right, there we go. Oh, gonna take your little hat off, people. Cool, what a lovely day outside. It's lovely and bright outside. Oh, look at that. Oh, this is a day to be outside and enjoying myself, not just stuck inside editing this shit. Oh, God. Oh, it's an early start this morning because it's bank holiday, which means everyone, and because it's a lovely day, everyone's going to be out and going, oh, where should we go? We've got all of London to play with. I know, let's go to a canal and terrorise Michael while he's trying to record his bloody podcast. Oh, so already, people have been up and down the canal already. This is, what time is it? I started writing at about 5:30 this morning. It's 10 to 9 now. I've just finished that record. Oh, and my neighbour has just put his music on. Just put his I went past him yesterday and he was listening to this. Which is different to the other song. Don't confuse it as being the same song. It's different. This one is very different song. Anyway, welcome to Extra Mile, everyone. The unscripted, unedited bit. Don't forget, this is not essential. You don't have to listen to this if you don't want to. This kind of came about. It evolved kind of organically over time. I added a little bit in episode, I think it was episode 21, about a little experiment I did to try and solve this case, or kind of get a better understanding of it. And then people started liking it, so I started adding more and more. And even that, not my favourite bit. I prefer the first half of the show. People seem to enjoy it, so I still keep doing it. So I hope you're enjoying it. I'm going to make a cup of tea in a bit. I just had a cup of tea early when I started this morning, and the milk had gone off. Oh, lovely. That was a delight when I had a swig of it and then went, ooh, and it was all separated and floaty. Anyway, let's open up some more windows. Let's put the water on. Hang on. Bear with. There we go. Oops, I haven't opened my side window yet. Let's see if ducks are outside. Got loads of ducks outside. Was feeding the swans yesterday, which is very nice. Cool, it's bright. Coot outside. Someone up the canal shouting. It's what they do. Come to a canal, start shouting for no particular reason. And Twat's still playing his music next door. Oh. Never understood it. I wear earphones everywhere I go because I don't like people to have to be sullied by my music. But there are some people out there who just love to have the They like to have everyone else listen to their music. Oh, never get that. Right, we'll dive into some stuff about this shortly. This is one of those cases that I've been trying for years to do this case. There's a file in the National Archives. I always every month I put in my Freedom of Information request to get files that haven't been released. Unfortunately, this was one of those ones that was rejected. I was only able to get an appeals file for Bernard Alfred Cooper, which gave me a little bit of information, but not as much as I would have liked. So originally it was going to be a two-parter about this case and how it was kind of dominated in the press by John George Haigh and his trial. So the press had said, oh, this case is more exciting rather than this one. But if you think about it, this is the story about A, a woman being murdered, but B, also a child being raped by her own father. This is kind of quite a serious case and it deserved press attention. But, the press decided, oh no, someone drowning in a vat of acid, that's more exciting. We'll dominate all of the press with that, and this barely got any coverage. So that's why I really wanted to cover this one. But so I've done it as best as I could with the limited information that I have. Oh, blackbird outside. I think that's a blackbird. So that's all good. I'm going to do quiz questions shortly. Tonight I'm going out for even though it's a hot night, I'm going out for a curry and a couple of pints. Lovely. Very good. Looking forward to that. Can't beat a curry and a couple of pints on a hot evening. There we go. What else is going on? As of time of recording, this is 25th of May. I think you'll be getting this kind of sometime in June, late June. I'm about a week away from doing the South Shields and Birmingham shows that we're doing. But I'll be road testing a little idea. Well, if you come and see that, you'll see the early stages of it. I'll be road testing an idea, which will be possibly will be a 28-part series, which I'll be rolling out in July. So you get to see that. That'll be good. Thank you to new patron subscribers. Thank you to James Malloy. Thank you to Seamus Garvey and the Artichoke's Hope. So thank you, James. Thank you, Seamus. Thank you, Artichoke's Hope. Struggled to say that. And if you enjoyed the nugget, which I put when I reformatted Murder Mile and split it into two, which I should have done a long time ago. It really is a 2-part show. I released the nugget, which is a little nugget of information that I think is kind of interesting, which doesn't really belong anywhere else, but it's kind of interesting. There's another nugget that I think I'm going to release with this one. So Friday, tomorrow, you will get, tomorrow as of in a month's time for me, you'll get another nugget. Lovely. Let me just go and get my coffee done. Cup of coffee. No, I tell you what. Let's not do a coffee. Let's do a chamomile. A pure chamomile. There we go. Oh, got a fresh packet. Lovely. Get in there. This will be nice. A nice chamomile. Not too hot. Thank you very much. Lovely, jubbly, 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 jubbly. Right, coming back. Right, let's do the quiz questions. Don't forget, I haven't edited this episode yet, so the quiz questions will may appear or may not appear. I've made some of them a lot easier than normal, because some people were saying, I don't normally do the quiz because it's too difficult. So I've put some difficult ones in there, but I've put some really easy ones in there as well. So here you go. Question number 1. How many people took part in the National Study on Sexual Behaviour? I'll give you a clue. It was in the thousands. So there you go. Question number 2. What county was Bernard born in? Question number 3. This one should be easy because I said his name about 100 times. What was the name of Bernard's father? It's also the name of one of the Thomas the Tank Engine's friends. Question number 4. Come on, this one's an easy one. What unusual animals did Bernard see in Chile as a child? I'll give you a clue. Benedict Cumberbatch is unable to pronounce this word. If you don't know what that means, Google that word and Benedict Cumberbatch, and then you can treat yourself to something fun. Question number 5. What job did Bernard do legally? Question number 6. What rank was Bernard in the army? Question 7. In 1930, he was sentenced to 3 months in prison for what pointless crime? Question number 8. What was Mary's maiden name? Question number 9. What was the name of the estate that Bernard broke into and drank all of their booze? And question number 10. What did Bernard sign those insulting letters of his victims off as? So when Bernard wrote in that place, when Bernard wrote several insulting letters to the victims, how did he sign it off? You've got to get that one. Everyone's got to get that one. Before we dive into extra stuff, the extra bit about the episode, cake of the week. Of course, I'm still partially on my diet. I did have a Belgian bun yesterday, only because I had some sandwiches, which is rare for me to have some wheat. But I decided, sod it, I'm going to have a Belgian bun, and that was nice. It was okay. But now this isn't really a cake, but sticky toffee pudding. Ooh, yeah, sticky toffee pudding. Apparently, weird people in Australia and New Zealand call it sticky date pudding. What the flip are you doing? Why are you ruining such a wonderful pudding? If you're not sure what it is, it's a really, really nice soft. It's almost like a muffin consistency sponge. As you know with me, I don't like those restaurants or places where you go into cake shops and it's all those religious, like those really finely crafted things that are multi-layers, and they're small, and you have to hold them between like some tweezers and pop it in your mouth and go, oh yes, that's rather delicious, thank you. I hate those. I like working class person, working class roots. Treats were always the simple things in life. So I've never liked expensive stuff ever. I really resent restaurants when you go in and it's that poncy wanky crap and a tiny piece of meat and then half a dainty demi carrot, and then somebody's put a splodge of sauce on the side and they charge you 50 quid, and I just go, well, where's the rest of it? I like value for money. Working class kid, value for money. I like a good roast. I like a decent meal. Tonight I'll have a good curry. I will come out, my belly will be bursting, and I'll feel like I've got value for money. That's what life is all about. Therefore, for me, cake's always about the simple things. So this is like it's a soft sponge, muffin-like consistency sponge. Throughout it, and especially on top, is very much a kind of a sticky toffee kind of coating, and it really seeps through it. If it's done properly, it really soaks through all the sponge. So when you kind of get a spoonful of the sponge, all of the sticky toffee is on the inside as well, but also you get a really, really good sticky toffee on the outside. Some weird people put dates with it. So the sticky toffee pudding is also made with kind of dark sugars and double cream, molasses, muscovado, things like that. Some people in Australia and New Zealand put dates with it. Why would you put finely chopped dates with it? It doesn't make any sense. Oh, you might be able to chop up some walnuts, put it with it. That's lovely. But you can serve it with vanilla ice cream. I would only go with that if it's cold, or a nice vanilla custard, which I would do when it's hot. There you go. So enjoy that. Hopefully your belly is rumbling. All good. So let's dive into the extra stuff for this episode. Hang on, what's that? Somebody's gardening. I wish they'd stop. So, the extra stuff on the... Hang on, sorry. What are you doing? Why are you cutting the grass again? For God's sake, you only did it yesterday, you idiot.
Oh, it's all very well you saying that, but it's grown 0.0000000000001 millimetre since yesterday. And in this subtropical climate, it may grow as much as 0.00001 millimetres a day, which could be a trip hazard for a really small child, a mouse, a flea, or, if he comes back to life, Prince. What if they trip over it? What if a microbe gets lost on its way to see its stilt maker as it's fed up with taller microbes calling him short arse? Eh? And what if that 0.0000001 millimetres worth of grass gets in the way of your willy? And Eva gets furious that she's got nothing to laugh at but your baldy head and your big fat roly-poly belly. Now let me ask you this. Do you really want to make your boss / owner / handler angry by not giving her a microscopic winkle to giggle at?
No, you're right. That's fair enough.
I thought not.
Listeners, look, I'm going to let this guy hack down this huge blade of grass. Otherwise, a drunken apocalypse may be unleashed. Okay? See you after the break. So we're back, right. Let's dive into the extra stuff about this episode. So, a little stretch there. So, it's kind of interesting diving into kind of Bernard's back history, because most of what we had was only from the appeal court stuff. And when he was there, he quite often would lie about his life, which I found absolutely interesting, because in front of all the lawyers and all that would obviously be his prison record, so they know the dates of where he is. And yet he was the one there saying... So he initially did join the army. Don't forget, I mentioned this at the very start, that if you were between 18 and 26 and you were a single man, in 30s and 40s, you were still, well, especially post-war as well, you were still required to sign up in the army, which you did. You were still had to do your 18 months. I think that went on until at least the 50s. So he said in 1942 he rejoined the army. He joined an anti-tank unit, but never went overseas. And he said in 1946 he was discharged on compassionate grounds as his wife had suffered injuries during the air raid, and that at the time his army record was good. But that's all bullshit, because he was in the 30s he was kicked out of the army, and he was banned from, because he was banned from the army, he was then banned from the Navy and the RAF, so he couldn't get into any. So he didn't do any of that. He did his little bit of work in the job that I can't mention because that's one of the quiz questions, but he's very much a bit flighty on things. We'll dive into some stuff about his injuries. So a lot of the details that we get from him were details that he would say in court. Not in court, but kind of when he was being medically assessed and when he was being assessed by the psychiatrist as well. Quite often these kind of reports are really good for getting an insight into a person's life, because quite often the doctor and the psychiatrist will go and speak to their family and get kind of medical history and background there. And that's a really good place to kind of search for their true history. But the problem is, you've got to take this into consideration here, that he's on trial and he's potentially about to be executed for murder. So if you're smart, he's not very smart, but what most people tend to do at this point is they try and think of everything they can do which will help them, that their lawyers can go, oh, well, we can use this to get you from a death sentence down to a life sentence, or we can reduce this from murder to manslaughter, or we can add in provocation, or we could use diminished responsibility. So you always have to be really cautious around this point when they're talking to the doctor and the psychiatrist. Because this may be the point where they're trying to claim that they're insane, or that they're trying to claim that they're sane. So it's all very difficult. So here, as mentioned in this episode, he was sent to the Old Bailey on the 8th of March 1938 for shooting with intent to do grievous bodily harm, to resist arrest, and to use a firearm to resist arrest with a policeman. So from what we know, he was trying to rob a shop or do a burglary in Paddington. And this is kind of weird, because in all the other cases that we've got, he doesn't have a gun with him at this point, but here he seems to. So we don't know whether he picked it up or whether he always had it with him. We don't know. I'll be honest, with this case, because we don't have the proper police file that I was searching for, or the court records, there's gaps. There's quite a few gaps here and there, so pieces are about to piece together and work out. But he had a fight with a policeman. He didn't shoot the policeman, but he had a. Well, actually, that's true. It doesn't actually say that he didn't shoot the policeman, so that could be the attempted murder. Policeman, as far as we know, policeman didn't seem to be badly injured, so maybe it was just like a leg shot or something he recovered from. But Bernard himself suffered from a fractured skull at that point. He was hit over the head by the policeman, probably by his truncheon. Bernard was a patient at St Mary's Hospital in Paddington for 5 weeks, and records show that he made a satisfactory recovery. So that was one of the things that he would say. Oh, do you know, maybe it wasn't me. I can't remember things well because I was hit over the head by a policeman. But if you look at his life, his cruelty and his criminality stems from way into his earlier life, stems from when he was a child, when he was educated by his father, and his father was a piece of cack. His father was a criminal and seemed to have a lot of bad traits, of which his son picked those up as well. After he was released from prison in 1945, so he did the 7 years in prison for he would have got a lot longer if it was attempted murder. He would have got about 10, maybe 12. But because it was reduced to grievous bodily harm of a police constable, it was reduced to 7 years. So he was released in 1945. Same year, he received another head injury when a glass frame fell on top of his head. Pinch of salt time. He said he was unconscious for 3 days and was in hospital for a fortnight. He said his head injury left him with headaches. When under mental observation at Brixton Prison in 1940, and in Brixton Prison in 1948, sorry, I forgot to put a comma there. In Brixton Prison in 1948, he still complained of headaches, but an examination revealed that he suffered from neuralgia on the left-hand side of his head due to herpes/shingles of one of the nerves to the scalp. He said that since then he's been in good health. So he was in Brixton Prison 3 times, as far as I can tell. So when he was ultimately sent to prison for murder, the same doctor who'd assessed him for the murder trial had actually assessed him for the other 2 times as well, and they got his records as well, so they were able to compare that. So he was assessed on all occasions. As mentioned in here, his wife left him quite a few times. It must have been a really difficult situation for Mary, if you think about it. You know, it's 1940s. Women really haven't got rights as such. She's married with 2 children, 2 young children. They don't have much money. He's not bringing much in. She does have a father who's nearby, but it doesn't really seem that she's that close with her family. She seems to be with her sisters. But let's not forget, they may have had equally as difficult lives, so it may be difficult for them. Or maybe she was just unwilling to receive help from them. She wanted to deal with it herself. We don't know what their situation was, but, you know, difficult for her. So it seems that every 2 to 3 years she would leave him. He would always promise that he would do well, that he'd try and hold down a steady job. As we've seen, he managed to hold down a job at a building contractors for about 3.5 years, but again was kicked off because he was drunk all the time. That seems to be the maximum. He spent a lot of his time drinking. He spent 3 times a week at least, he was having sex with prostitutes. So that's a good amount of money that he's spending on sex, and a good amount of money he's spending on drink as well, especially when he's married and got 2 kids. And she's a stay-at-home mum doing all of her hard work, and he's, you know, not really pulling in the work. He's stealing. He spends, as mentioned in the 17 years that were together, he was in prison for 10. And how much of that was he spent when he was free? Was he spent in the pub or with his penis in a prostitute? You know, this guy's not good at all. Not good at all. I briefly mentioned it in the episode, but 19th of August 1948. So this is when he went back into prison again. He'd come out again. She'd agreed to take him back. He'd gone back into prison. This was at Greenwich Magistrates Court, and he was bound over for stealing clothes from a dwelling house, i.e. a burglary. In and around the same time, he got an injury, 1947, which limited the contraction to his right little finger. So don't forget, when the window pane had fell on his head, he got a big scar down, I think it was his left cheek. And we don't know what the contraction of the little finger, what the issue with that is. It could be related to an STD, because he had several. When he was in prison, he admits that all of his convictions were done when he was drunk, in inverted commas, so drunk that he could not remember the details of them. When waiting trial previously, the medical officer states he made the same excuse of being too drunk to remember, but the medical officers could find no evidence of mental disease nor feeble-mindedness, and were of the opinion that his story of drunkenness and his alleged forgetfulness was not true. The medical officer of Brixton Prison, in his assessment, said, "I agree with this opinion. In my opinion, the head injuries received in 1936 and 1935 are of no significance in assessing his present mental condition." I had to put a little note to myself there. As you can tell, because the young girl was a victim of rape, it's kind of key that you don't mention their names. So hence I call her Susan, but that's obviously not her real name. So I had to keep making sure that I didn't. Obviously, when I edit this, I'm gonna make sure that I get it right as well. There's nothing worse than kind of, even though she's dead, it's the thing that we do. the rape itself. So, as mentioned, she was only 14 years old. So that led to a legal abortion in 1948. It wasn't legalized by that point, but because of her age and because it was induced by a rape, therefore it was allowed to go forward. But there was a rape allegation in there, but because obviously we don't have the police files, therefore we can't say that he was about to go to trial for this. Let's not forget this is the 1940s, so it may have got to the point where the police say, well, we haven't got any evidence. This is kind of the era where things like domestic abuse are kind of just like, police don't really deal with it. They just go, well, it's a domestic, it's up to you, isn't it? So what goes on behind your house is yours. And given the fact that he's her father, don't forget, it was still legal to rape your wife up until I think it was 2004 in Britain. So, we still have draconian laws. So if you think about this is 1948. When the police turn up, do you really think they're going to be able to go, they're not going to see it with our eyes, seeing that as him as a paedophile and this is absolutely abhorrent. They'll just go, well, it happens, it's family life, it's a domestic. And don't forget, she may have been scared and she may not have been willing to file a charge against him. It's her father. She has to live with him. These are all difficult circumstances. I think too often it's too easy to kind of to criticize people from a distance and say, oh, it's disgraceful. Oh, look at Mary. Oh, she took him back 4 times. Oh, what is she like? Is she an idiot? He was about to murder her. Just run away. But hindsight is a wonderful thing. But don't forget, we're talking about this in an entirely different era. We have different lives. We have much more freedoms than these people, and they have difficult lives as well. So it's hard to make a judgment on each of these people and the decisions that they make. But everybody has to make difficult decisions, and sometimes we make the right ones, and sometimes we don't, and sometimes we just don't. We don't have crystal balls, so we can't see into the future. In 1948, he said that he committed incest with his daughter, and as a result, his daughter had a pregnancy terminated by surgical interference, it says, in October 1948. He promised his wife he would never interfere with his daughter again if she took him back, and on the strength of this promise, his wife agreed to continue living with him. Don't forget, it's difficult for her. She has got no income. He's effectively paying the rent with what little money he has. I think it was social housing, so it's kind of hard for her. She's got 2 kids. What's she going to do? Also, it's hard for her to kind of move on as a single woman with 2 children and then find another husband, because it's going to be who's going to take her on. That's a really difficult thing, and then she's stuck with no money and no way to survive. Very different in post-war Britain, 1940s, things were still difficult up until the 60s. We're still suffering the ramifications of World War II, 60s, sometimes into the 70s. Sorry, I was just reading slightly ahead. I'm just being slightly cautious because there are things that I have to make sure I don't say. He, as mentioned, his wife did leave him a couple of times. She'd left him quite a few times before, and each time he took to drink. Even though he was a big drinker, he took to drink, and he'd drink even more aggressively. And during these periods, he would have even more sexual intercourse with prostitutes during this era. But when she promised to take him back that final time, he says that it's that line. He says that he'd been faithful to her, except for his conduct towards his daughter. Ooh, it's just something horrible and chilling about that. When he was in Brixton Prison, so the final time, he was prisoner 2853. His psychiatric report was dated 16th of May 1949. He was received in custody on the 7th of April 1949 and examined on reception, as is right, placed under the mental observance in the prison hospital and remained there ever since. He was seen daily, and and as mentioned, they had his prison reports from 1936, 1938 and 1948. His past history appears to reveal that he has hitherto been a lustful, violent-tempered man who could do useful work if he chose. I think that's kind of key there, isn't it? He could really have, from an early age, he was learning a trade from an early life, could have done really well. Unfortunately, some of the things he learnt was from his father. His father was a piece of shit. I'm guessing his father was a piece of shit as well. Therefore, taught, all bad things get passed down the line. He could have fought against that, but I guess it's that mental kind of willingness, isn't it? Some people have horrible lives, but they're able to go, do you know what? I don't want to be like my parents. They were a horrible piece of shit. I'm going to rebel against it. I'm going to do something different. Whereas some people, their lives collapse because of the trauma of it. They can't get away from it, and unfortunately, they start to their violence come through, and before they know it, they start becoming the person that they don't want to be. It's like they say with paedophiles as well. You don't just wake up and become a paedophile. A paedophile is normally someone who's been abused as a child, and therefore they don't understand right from wrong. They don't understand good from bad. They want to hurt someone in the world. They can't get back at the paedophiles who hurt them. Therefore, they have to hit down as everyone does, and therefore they attack a child, and it's them getting revenge on the world. And before they know it, they don't realise that they've become exactly what they hate. They've become the thing they despise. But by that point, they've become horrible and nasty, and it's a disgusting thing that they can't control anymore. It's like a disease, like drinking and drugs, I guess. So, quote here, at none of the interviews he showed any signs of insanity, and despite his poor schooling, his intelligence as tested by special tests is not defective. Examined by the electrocephalograph, examination by the electrocephalograph, you know the word, does not reveal any abnormal working of the brain nor evidence of epilepsy or any condition applied to epilepsy. His conduct in the prison ward has been normal, and at times he has shown the hospital staff no abnormal conduct. He was declared fit to stand trial. The body of Mary was identified by her father, Victor, who was a coach fitter in Brighton. Her brother, Victor, who was a coach fitter in Brighton. And the children, although it was said they went to stay with friends in Brighton, it's believed that it was actually her brother who actually took them on. So, but we don't really know much more about them. As mentioned in the episode, I think I put that in the episode. So she died age 44. Susan. We really don't know much about her life, unfortunately. After that moment, we don't know what happened. We don't know what she went on to do. Let's hope that for the final 30 years of her life, after all the horror, that she was able to kind of get through some of it and at least live some kind of an ordinary life. But you just think of it with child abuse and child rape and pregnancy and abortion, and her mother being murdered and finding the body as well, and her father being sent to prison, and her father being executed, and probably all the stigma that goes with it as well. You have to wonder whether she actually could have gone on to have a half decent life after everything that was perpetuated by her father, and I would also say his father as well. So let's do some of the quiz questions. Let's see how many you got. So, question number 1. How many people took part in the National Study on Sexual Behaviour? It was 4,000. Apparently that was it was held for 50 years before it was released, and it was an anonymous study, but it is available now, so you can go and have a look at it. Question number 2. What county was Bernard born in? It was Nottinghamshire. Question number 3. What was the name of Bernard's dad? Come on, easy one, this one. Everyone should have got that. Percy. Question number 4. What unusual animals did Bernard see in Chile as a child? Another easy one, come on. Penguins. Or as Bernard Bernard. Benedict Cumberbatch would say in the documentary he did on penguins, penguins. It's very funny. Listen to it. You can't say penguins at all. Question number 5. What job did Bernard do legally? He was a house painter and decorator, so if you got any of those, that's a point. Question number 6. What rank was Bernard in the army? Oh, I mean, he was rank, wasn't he? But he was a private. Someone running past. When people jog, they always have to be shouting at their mate. Why didn't you save your energy and just use it for your feet rather than your gob? Question number 7. In 1930, Bernard was sentenced to 3 months in prison for what pointless crime? It could be a difficult one, so good luck if you got it. Stealing gloves from a taxi. Ooh, stealing gloves. Wow. Ooh, big time criminal. Question number 8. What was Mary's maiden name? It was Fordham. Question number 9. What was the name of the estate that Bernard broke into and drank all of their booze? It was Park House, which was a big famous house. I think it was designed by John Nash in the 1700s. Oh, excuse me. Yawn o'clock. Question number 10. What did Bernard sign those insulting letters of his victims off as? That's a really badly worded question. Bernard signed off the insulting letters to his victims as what? Well, I hope that everyone got this, because it's the title of the episode. He signed it off as the Lone Hand of Terror. Does make you kind of wonder with him. That's what I was kind of alluded to at the end, is with him, whether, yes, he's evil, yes, he's twisted, yes, he's a sadist, yes, he's a drunk, but I think we're getting into this era now where murderers are starting to become famous and kind of lauded in the press, and you could kind of see that with John George Haigh, and we'd already had it with Crippen, and we were yet to get it with Christie, but we're in kind of that era at the moment where true crime is kind of finding its second wind, and half of me is wondering with that Lone Hand of Terror, whether that was something that his dad did, or whether this is something he wanted to do because he wanted to make a name for himself. But interestingly, he doesn't seem to have done this elsewhere, which is why I'd love to get... Oh, I couldn't, but I'd love to get access to the police files and the court records to see whether he used the Lone Hand of Terror anywhere else except for when he broke into Park House. It just seems strange that he would do that there. I did go searching to see if there were films called The Lone Hand of Terror. There was one in 1953, which is obviously 4 years after he died. It was called The Lone Hand. Wasn't one called The Lone Hand of Terror, but it could have been in a radio play. It could have been something he heard. I think it's unlikely that he would have come up with this. It's likely that he would have heard it somewhere, maybe on a radio play, and thought, "Ooh, yeah, I'll use that next time I go out." But yeah, don't really know much more about that. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. That was Extra Mile for this episode. I'm going to do some editing today. I'm going to edit as much of this episode as possible. Go out, have a curry later on. Wake up tomorrow morning with a stinking hangover. Obviously, Eva never has a hangover, because have a hangover, you've got to start to sober up. And I think what she's worked out is you just continually just keep getting pissed. And that way you'll never get a bad headache. You know, she's always drunk, which is good. You know, clever woman. Anyway, that's me done. I'm going to enjoy my chamomile tea. Ooh, get me. Have a good one, folks. Stay safe. Be good. Thank you for supporting the show. Of course, don't forget, if you want to leave a nice review, it's always very much appreciated. It's hard times for everyone out there. Hard times in podcasting at the moment. All us little podcasters are disappearing down the charts because all the big corporates are taking over everything and ruining everything at the moment. So if you can help us by leaving a lovely review, that's really helpful. If you can tell your friends, that's really helpful. Anything to kind of help is very much helpful. Anyway, that's me done. Time for me to bugger off. Have yourself a good one, folks. Stay safe, be good, and lots of love. Bye bye.